So, the dynamic of co-parenting is a very common thing in today's world, right? And unfortunately, it's a dynamic that for a lot of people includes a lot of frustration, tension, negative energy, messiness, frustration, you name it, all right? It's it's a problem in a lot of people's lives. And the last thing we want is these very unhealthy dynamics because it's not good for the individuals involved. It's not good for the children, but it's difficult. It's difficult, especially if you are the parent or the co-parent who tries to do your best, but the other person is just making life more difficult, right? And so many people, unfortunately, kind of just throw their hands up in the air and they just view it as this is the way it is. And it's just this never ending negative cycle. But I want to provide you with some guidance on how we can possibly make it a lot better than you think. Like, I know some of you may feel like there's nothing that would change this, there's nothing that would make it better, but let's at least explore the keys that can create a much healthier, happier co-parenting situation. Now, before we get into some of these points, I do want to say this. The unfortunate reality is that many times we find ourselves in situations we never planned for, okay? And relationships taking a turn that we did not want to have happen to us. And when it involves kids, it can magnify the frustration, the disappointment, the hurt, uh, that comes from things not going as we planned. And so I know that when we are not careful, that can create a very negative cycle in our life. And I understand how getting outside assistance can be extremely powerful and extremely helpful, no matter what kind of situation we are dealing with in our life. And that's why I am so thankful to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Because therapy is a safe space where you can share what's on your mind, whether it's stress, sadness, worries, or relationship issues, without fear or judgment. The therapist is there to listen, ask questions, and help you see things from new perspectives. They can provide insights and teach techniques to manage emotions, reduce stress, and make positive changes in your life. BetterHelp is a platform where therapists and their clients can communicate effectively and get the most out of therapy. Starting therapy is easy with BetterHelp. Fill out a questionnaire and you will match with a therapist in as little as a couple days. One of the best features of BetterHelp is that if the first therapist doesn't feel like the right fit, you can easily switch to another one until you find someone you really connect with. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. If you're struggling and think you'd benefit from a therapy session, click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/Stephan Speaks and get 10% off your first month of therapy. So one of the first big keys to successfully co-parenting is addressing underlying issues. Now, this one can be a little tricky, okay? Because I think that when people think about going to therapy, getting counseling, things of that nature, they just assume that's just for married couples, right? Or engaged couples. Like, if we're not officially together, why are we going to counseling? But we have to understand that in co-parenting, there is still a level of we have to learn how to coexist with each other. We have to learn how to work in harmony with each other, okay? And to achieve that, we have to sometimes face some underlying issues that were never properly resolved. Now, one of the most common underlying issues that I have seen whenever I've dealt with clients dealing with very difficult co-parenting situations is that at least one of the people involved has not gotten over the fact that they're no longer with you. Like, essentially, they had a vision of, I'm going to have this family with this person, I'm going to be with them. And now that that dream is gone, that they have not gotten over that. And that hurt, that resentment, that frustration pours out consistently and constantly while dealing with them. And you may not understand that's what's going on because to you, they're saying, I'm good, I'm fine, I don't want you anymore, whatever the case may be. But they're hurt by that, okay? And I have to throw this in, hit my spirit, got to do it. And this is more specifically targeted to the women. Some of you may not realize that some men got a woman pregnant on purpose, okay? And impregnated that woman on purpose to create an attachment to them, to keep that woman in their lives. Which is why you'll see a lot of situations where man impregnates this woman, they're not even married or whatever. Now she doesn't want to be with him. And not only does he treat her in an unhealthy, toxic manner, he doesn't want to deal with the kids. Because to him, his real focus was never about a child. It was about keeping you at arm's length or keeping you in his life or having access to you. And now that that access is gone, now he acting a fool, okay? And of course, this can go either way, but this happens a lot with men this happens a lot in that dynamic that maybe women aren't always aware of, okay? Now, of course, if it's something like that, that's probably going to be a lot harder to get him to address or be honest about and properly resolve, right? But for the situations where it's more so about just the disappointment of things falling apart, no longer being the family they hoped, I do believe that there is a greater chance of if we properly address this, we can move past this and we can find peace with each other. And in one of the ways to do that outside of possibly getting outside assistance is we have to be careful to not be dismissive of how the other person feels. I think, again, because there's a lot of tension in co-parenting situations for various reasons, because let's just say, all right, let's say for the past few years, they've been acting all negative and unhealthy towards you, but you never understood that it was about this deeper hurt and rejection of things not working out. But now you've built up your own negativity towards them because of what you've dealt with, that now if they even tried to express themselves to you, you wouldn't want to hear it. You wouldn't care for it. It's like, listen, I ain't trying to talk to you. Just do what you got to do for your child and keep it moving. But then that never breaks the cycle, unfortunately. And I know that's, again, a lot of people don't want to have to deal with none of this, right? But if we want to get to a place of peace and harmony, being willing to address those underlying issues, willing to hear each other out, could work wonders. Now, I will say, I do think trying to have verbal discussions about these things, very difficult to accomplish. I think this is where using the method of writing letters to each other would be extremely helpful, allowing each party to really get everything off their chest, express how they feel, and then maybe after the letters are written, we can come together and discuss what was written to each other. Or maybe it's only one person writing a letter. Either way, I think it could create so much progress in the situation, just allowing people to release and then maybe having an honest discussion about why this didn't work out and why, at the end of the day, maybe we weren't in the best situation for each other. We weren't best for each other. And now we have a child and we have to do what's best for that child and create the proper environment. But let's not hold it against each other any longer. Let's not dwell on this any longer because it's not doing anyone any good. All right. Now, again, I know all this is easier said than done, but I just want to provide you with these perspectives that could possibly really change things for the better for you. All right. So another great key to successfully co-parenting is setting healthy boundaries. Okay. So first, let me acknowledge that it's a lot easier to set healthy boundaries with someone who's healthy, okay? And when there isn't unresolved issues and traumas and things of that nature. However, I do think that I've seen a lot of co-parenting situations where there wasn't defined, understood boundaries. And I always say a lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect. And it's not even that the person in that moment may be trying to disrespect you, but they don't understand the line they're not supposed to cross. Some things I know you may feel are like self-explanatory. Why would I have to break this down for you? But again, I think it's important to avoid misunderstandings that can turn into bigger mess, right? And create more tension in the situation. We can help avoid that by being very specific, clear, and forthcoming about what those boundaries are. So it's boundary, and also because sometimes it's difficult to deal with, maybe if one co-parent is still hoping to get back together. If you don't set boundaries, it's very easy for them to want to push the envelope to see how far they can go because they're hoping to get back in your life. So I think that sitting down, or again doing it via letter and expressing, okay, well, here is how this is going to work. All right. And of course, there has to be a willingness to hear each other out. But all right, and I'm just giving random examples. We don't do calls past this time unless it's an emergency. We don't have conversations outside of the child or whatever. If you're okay with a random, hey, how you doing? Just checking on you. All right, cool. Because some co-parents have very good friendships and very healthy, and they can handle having a conversation outside of just the child without it getting messy or causing a problem. So you have to take an inventory of your specific situation. But again, laying everything out, and being very clear and understanding how we need to navigate this with each other. All right. But not just laying things out, because many times during co-parenting, there may be one set of boundaries while we're single that we're accepting of, but it may have to have some adjustments once in a relationship, okay? And unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't have those honest conversations about how we need to handle things if a relationship comes about. And again, because there's unresolved feelings and things of that nature, once the other person gets into a relationship, people get extra salty, they get vindictive, it can create, they're hurt, so they lash out. Like, it can cause all kinds of problems. But I think if we had discussions about this early on, it can help minimize the chances of things going very left. All right. So let's not wait for that. Let's discuss that in advance as best as possible. Sometimes we may not be aware of a necessary boundary until the line is crossed, until something happens. All right. And we have to be mindful of, if we did not discuss this before, let's not turn this into like this huge battle. Let's just say, okay, you know what? It happened. Going forward, this needs to change. We're not doing that anymore. We're going to let that, mistake was made. All right, there was a misunderstanding there, but this is how it needs to be handled going forward. Then if it happens again, that's a different story. But that will at least, again, these are things that will help minimize some of the messiness, some of the tension, some of the negativity, and create a more healthy environment. All right, so let's keep this going. Got a few more for you. Another great key to creating or experiencing a successful co-parenting situation is learn not to take things personal with them. Now, I know, again, that can be easier said than done. And listen, I believe that the learning not to take things personal is important for every aspect of your life, okay? You will eliminate a lot of stress and a lot of negativity if you learn not to take things personal and internalize things. But here's the reason why I chose to highlight this when it comes to co-parenting. Because again, there tends to be a lot of underlying unresolved issues and tensions and things of that nature. People start to become even more sensitive in these situations. And now any negativity, anything that this other person does can be taken easily the wrong way. All right? It's almost like you're so used to them coming at you a certain way that you're waiting for them to do something again. And because you're waiting for them to do some nonsense again, or you're expecting it or projecting it onto them, you start to look at everything through that lens. All right? And so now you're quicker to get triggered. You're quicker to feel that this was a personal attack. And it's like, yo, but that a lot of times it's not. Now, I'm not going to lie to y'all. Sometimes it really was. So sometimes these people are trying to get under your skin. I get that. I acknowledge that. But when we don't even know that for sure, what purpose, what good does this serve for you to make that assumption or jump to that conclusion? I'd rather you just assume, you know what, I'm not even if it was personal, I ain't going to take it personal. Because again, what good is that going to do anyone? But I do want to shed light on a lot of times, like, I'll give an example. I've seen situations where, let's say one of the co-parents is watching the kids this weekend, and it was the kid that pissed them off, okay? But now when they speak to the other parent, they're in a real funky mood, they got an attitude, all right? They're being real short, whatever, and the other parent takes it as, here you go again. Why you always got to act like? And it's like, that really wasn't about you. They were frustrated with the kid. They may have been frustrated with work. They may have been frustrated with a lot of different things. But now you take it personal, and because you're taking it personal, you start to react with negativity. So even though they weren't, in their mind, I wasn't really coming for you, all right? I'm just having a bad day. But now you coming for me. And again, because both sides become sensitive, even if that wasn't your intent coming into that conversation, they start to view it as, oh, you're tripping. Why are you always acting like this, right? Now, and it just escalates. It just escalates. And it just gets messy when it never had to go there in the first place, okay? So we've got to be mindful that even with the co-parent who does have a track record of being on some nonsense, it's not always about you. It's not always personal. Don't take it that way, all right? And again, even if it was, you will do better things for yourself and for your environment by just choosing not to be offended, by choosing not to take it that way, by learning to just, you know what? You know this is how they get down, and you're not going to get yourself riled up over this. You're not going to get yourself caught up in this nonsense. You're not going to let yourself get stressed out over it. Because again, it doesn't serve anyone any good. So learn not to take things personal, all right? Take a deep breath, all right? And try to stay in a more positive mindset. All right, a couple more keys to go. And so another important key to experiencing successful co-parenting is healthy communication. Now, of course, again, easier said than done, and much easier when healthy people are involved. But at the end of the day, we just got to focus on what we can control. And the key is, are we expressing ourselves in a healthy way? Are we taking the high ground in how we communicate? And are we being transparent and forthcoming in all these things? We have to look at ourselves as, let's lead by example. Now, I know a lot of people feel like, why I got to be the bigger person? Or why do I have to be the one to make sure I'm, being mindful of how I speak and all these different things, and, being careful with my tone and all that type, or maybe feel like that person doesn't deserve me speaking to them in a healthy, respectful manner, right? And I get it. I completely understand. But again, I always tell people, you have a choice. You can focus on pride or you can focus on progress, all right? Pride's going to tell you, don't care about how you speak to them. Don't care about the effects it has on you, the environment. You're just going to say what you want to say. You don't feel like they deserve any better, whatever. Progress says, I'm just going to, whatever's going to help this have a better chance at going in the right direction, I'm going to focus on that. And I just feel like there's no point in focusing on the pride, because it's not going to serve you in the long run. All you're doing is stressing yourself out. All you're doing is raising the chances of things escalating, keeping a negative cycle going, creating an unhealthy environment for the children. What's the point of that? All right? Now, I understand. Sometimes, even when you're trying to be healthy, people trying to push your buttons. All right? And I'm not expecting you to be perfect. No one's perfect. But we have to strive for that. All right? And I do think that in some cases, I feel that the other steps are followed. If we resolve some of the underlying issues, things of that nature, we can get there. We can get to that place together. And now, again, you two can have peace. And understand, listen, I've said it earlier, but I'll say it again. There are some very healthy co-parenting situations out there. There are people who, like, they're good. They're good, and it's healthy, and it's great, and they're making the best of the situation and all that stuff. And so understand that we can achieve better, but we have to take a better approach to things. For some, it was easier the person they dealt with, it maybe doesn't have as many issues. And let me say this, because I'm putting a lot of spotlight, or I'm saying a lot of this person having issues and all this stuff. But be fair, you might have some issues too. you may have more issues than them. All right. Be mindful of, again, this is why you have to focus on what you can control. You got to make sure you're coming correct, all right? And that you are not contributing or pouring negativity into the situation, and doing the best that you can and striving to always get better. But again, don't look at it as doing it for them. You're doing it for you. You're doing it for the children. You're doing it for your higher quality of life and having more peace. That's what's best. So with the healthy communication, I do think I will add this. I kind of mentioned it earlier. For some people, it may be much more beneficial to express deeper issues or concerns through writing. I think also when it comes to certain agreements, like when we agree to this person's going to pick the child up, watch the child here, things like that, it's good to have it on paper, because you have situations where people say, I never agreed to that, or that's not what I said, and you ain't got no proof. But if you did it via email, letter, whatever, they have to respond back, or text too for certain things. I don't think expressing deeper concerns and issues should be done via text, right? But I think when it comes to certain agreements and stuff like that, text is good, because then you have a record of it, all right? That can eliminate back and forth arguments. There ain't no, well, I didn't say that. No, it's right here. You did. So let's work from there, right? That will help. But yes, letters, when it comes to expressing or discussing deeper issues, can be very beneficial for people. Having a third party can be very beneficial. So explore all the avenues possible to create healthier communication, so that both parties are on the same page, right? And creating as best of a respectful, positive environment as possible. All right. So another key to successfully co-parenting is you gotta focus on creating a positive environment for the children. All right. So, one of the things that I believe, and this is from my experience of all the people I've sat down with, talked to, coached, you name it, or even seen in my personal life with friends, family, things of that nature, is that, a lot of people are, and I'm not saying the goal is for people to end up divorced, but a lot of people fear divorce when it comes to kids are involved, because they're worried about the impact it's going to have on the children. And I always make the argument that from what I've seen, the real issue is not the divorce itself. It's the negative environment that the children now has to deal with. And it's the confusion of the whole situation. All right. Because just to bring some clarity to that, if you're a child and you were told all your life, mommy and daddy love each other, right? And everything is fine. And then one day, they get a divorce, that's confusing. That can throw the child for a loop. And because the child doesn't have a clear answer as to what's going on, that can lead to the child thinking, is it me? Is it my fault? And it can really put a lot of stress on them. However, if the child had a more clear understanding of what happened, of course, that's going to depend on the age and things of that nature. But if there was more of an honesty about, okay, and I'm just giving an example, you know what? We got married and we did not truly know each other well. We did not realize we were on the same page, and we've been trying this whole time, but we came to realize this is not working out well. If things can be done amicably and then explained in that way, I think it can help in a lot of situations. Of course, some things are going to go deeper. Sometimes there is just the trauma of my parents are no longer apart, and their dream of having a family as a child. There's a lot that can go into it, but the confusion causes a lot of problem. But then going past that is, again, the unhealthy environment, okay? And I do think that the real goal ultimately has to be a positive environment for you as well, and for both parties involved and the children. If they have that, then all things, I believe that then the disappointment of all this can be overcome. All right, the negative effects of this can be overcome if we can create a very healthy, positive environment. So when we make that our focus, it can make it easier, not easy, but easier for us to lock into doing the things that we need to do, lock into setting those healthy boundaries, resolving those issues, having healthy communication, because again, we now focus on progress, not pride. All right. We focus on the main goal of positive environment for the kids rather than dwelling on, well, they said something to me I didn't like, or, this conflict, or whatever the case may be. It can be very helpful. So let me also throw in there, I do understand that some situations are even far beyond that. You may have an abusive parent. There's a lot of different outliers here. So of course we understand there's going to be exceptions to all these rules. However, ultimately I believe when we make that the focal point, the positive environment for the children, that can really help us overcome a lot of different things, or at least give us the fuel needed to try to push past certain things. All right. So let that be at the forefront of your co-parenting dynamic. All right. So I wanted to give you a bonus key to successfully co-parenting. And that key is pray before you react. All right. So remember I said earlier that a lot of times in these situations, due to whether it be underlying issues or certain conflicts that occur, people can become very sensitive and easily triggered by the other parent, right? Again, due to all the tension that still exists between them. And with that, people are very reactive, all right? And react in a way that can pour more negativity, escalate the situation, and just things go completely downhill from there, right? And it's just this constant roller coaster, because you could have like this whole blow up, then all right, we try to calm ourselves down, but then it's just ongoing, another blow up later, and it's just back and forth, back and forth. But what would help eliminate a lot of that is pray before you react, all right? Before you react to that text message that might have just pissed you off, take a deep breath, pray, let God guide you on how you should respond, all right? Before you interpret a certain action or inaction, a certain kind of way that's going to take you to a negative place, take a deep breath, pray, let God show you how to view it, how to handle it, okay? By going into prayer first, one, you will increase your chances of calming yourself down, which is going to be huge in not having a negative reaction to this, okay? Not to mention, again, I have to stress to you, it's not just about reacting to the situation and what happens now between you and the other parent. If you allow yourself to even dwell on that negative, so let's just say, okay, I'm not going to respond because I know I'm going to say something crazy right now, but you don't pray, so you don't allow yourself to really process this properly. You're now dwelling in the negativity. So now your whole day is bad, right? And now maybe you're taking your negativity out on your friends or your partner or your kids or whatever the case may be, or yourself. But by praying, you can help dissipate some of that negative energy. You can help bring yourself back to a centered place, all right? So it's beneficial for you, it's beneficial for your home, it's beneficial for the co-parenting situation. Because again, sometimes we are looking at things the wrong way. Sometimes, as I said earlier, we're taking things personal that was not personal. Sometimes it's just understanding that if we handle this better, we may have the power to steer this in a better direction. And I have to say it again, you can focus on pride or you can focus on progress. So prayer, I do believe, is going to help immensely. And again, it's not just in co-parenting, in life in general. It's not, pray before you overthink. Pray before you react. Just pray. Like at the end of the day, just pray, because it can be so beneficial to you. And I also want to say this too. If you feel like you don't understand because we talked about underlying issues that may exist there, and then you need clarity on what's going on here, pray about that as well. Just bottom line is include God in your co-parenting. I think that will be very beneficial and help increase the chances of you experiencing successful co-parenting. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on 5 harsh truths I'd share with you if you were my daughter. Yes, it's true. They are. They are. I think a lot of women have been blinded by the many bad experiences they've gone through.